Hello, welcome to The Big Fight, this special edition. It's been a long journey, but the road to 2019 has finally come to an end because the elections are here. First phase, polling has took place, and we are going to be trying to analyze and discuss on the course of this show what may be some of the big and interesting hints that we picked up from there. Also, that entire question of what actually happened in Andhra and Telangana and whether that potentially has a bearing for post-poll alliances. But then we're also going to take a look at phase 2, which is next week, of course, Tamil Nadu, many other states, and we're going to go state by state to see what the key issues are likely to be, who seems to have an edge and who doesn't seem to have an edge. A number of top experts and guests are going to be joining us. But if I can just start off by looking at interesting data in perhaps one of the most interesting states in this entire election. And yes, I know we keep saying that Uttar Pradesh is crucial because it's got 80 seats, and that's one of the reasons, but also it's interesting from a pure analysis point of view just because of the permutations and combinations. And you know what the starting point is, right? It was the BJP which swept us last time, 71, 73 if you include the Apna Dal out of 80. This time SP plus BSP means that the starting point would actually be 40 or so for the BSP Samajwadi Party and 37, 38 for the BJP. That's if the pattern is to be repeated. But then you've got to throw in other questions. The Congress, is it a spoiler? Is it not a spoiler? And so on and so forth. So two people who've done a great amount of work on the ground and with the data. Sagarika Ghosh is with us, and Sanjay, of course, of CSDS. Sanjay knows the data probably better than just about anybody else I know. Professor Sanjay Kumar, who's the director of CSDS, one of our top political analysts. And then I'm going to get their other guests in, including Gaurav Ballabh, who's joining us from the Congress Party. Actually, I'll come to the rest of you in a couple of minutes. Let me just look at the two of you and get you to try and help analyze some of the data and the signals that may have emerged from phase 1. So, two crucial phase 1 questions I want to throw at you. One, Uttar Pradesh, obviously. How did it look to you? What worked? What didn't work? Did the Gathbandhan hold on the ground according to whatever you're being able to pick up?
See, there is a traditional belief. If the turnout goes up, we tend to believe that this is a vote for anti-incumbency. People are voting in large number to throw out the ruling party or the ruling candidate, sitting MP. In this election, I don't see that this is going to be the trend. When I spoke to the people on the ground, I got a sense that BJP voters were very enthusiastic. So, I am expecting that in all those constituencies where the turnout has gone up, the BJP enthusiastic voters have come out in large numbers and they have voted in large numbers. I don't see that happening in 6 out of 4 Lok Sabha seats, 6 out of 8 Lok Sabha seats which went to poll in UP.
So, all eight, let's remember last time in phase 1, all 8 were with the BJP last time. And by the way, massive margins. Ghaziabad, 5 lakhs, all of them, pretty big margins. So, you're saying that the turnout may well have been a BJP turnout?
My own sense is that higher the turnout, it will go to the advantage of the ruling party of the state. Lower the turnout, it pushes the ruling party in a tight corner because. And this especially applies for BJP because BJP.
So you're flipping conventional wisdom on its head, essentially.
Yes.
Okay. Sagarika, you've written at great length and looked also at the crucial question of two things. One is the Gathbandhan holding. B, is there a division taking place of various votes? So which way did the Jats finally end up going? Which way did the Muslim vote finally end up going? I guess seats like Saharanpur will be crucial in dictating that. Should have been a short victory for the Gathbandhan, but Imran Masood, did he cut into that? Did he not do it? What is your sense of the way it finally worked on the ground?
Well, big picture, Vikram, for me was that this election is completely different from 2014. I was there in 2014 in Western UP for a week. I was there this time for almost 10 days. The kind of euphoria and josh we saw in 2014, not there. It's a lackluster election, and one felt that people didn't really have that kind of engagement with the election. But the turnouts were good, the turnouts were reasonable, and I think that it would probably be premature to say which way the turnout is going to go. It could either be pro-incumbency or anti-incumbency. I don't think we can make that judgment yet. From what I perceived on the ground, there really is no wave, there is no Modi wave. Yes, Mr. Modi is still very popular, but there is no wave. It's a waveless election. Let's come to the
He's not looking convinced.
No, 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 no.
I think it's a waveless election. It's a more normal election in that sense. I just think that, you know, it's 20% to above 20% Muslim, 15% Jatav, 17% Jat in this entire region. And if you look at the way the candidates have been fielded by the Congress, it seems as if where the Gathbandhan is fielding a strong BSP candidate, that the Congress is there cutting the Gathbandhan vote. Like, for example, in Saharanpur, where they fielded Imran Masood
and against the BSP is returning the favour or the disfavour as the case.
But whereas in Rampur, where there's a strong SP candidate like Azam Khan, they are in fact putting up the Congress has put up a dummy candidate.
Okay.
So that's
I just want to take that line of thought forward a little bit before I start diving into phase 2. Gaurav Vallabh is with us of the Congress Party. We have Lalita Kumaramangalam joining us, Director of the India Foundation. Niranjan Shetty is with us as well. We have Mr. C. Rajashekharan joining us, political analyst and lawyer. Couple of minutes, we're going to be getting somebody in from the AIADMK as well, and Sudhindra Kulkarni also going to be joining us very shortly. I want to come to all of you in a second, but I just want to let's just get UP out of our system a little bit, because there's so much to discuss there. And also phase 2, maybe we should look at the phase 2 Uttar Pradesh graphics, because a lot of the dynamics that Sagarika was talking about are going to play themselves out in phase 2 also. Western UP is where the alliance dynamics perhaps is particularly crucial. This is phase 2. This is what's going to vote in phase 2. The part to the west of that is already done. Now it's phase 2. These are all interesting areas. Many of those states, again, the question of is Congress spoiling votes, and if so, for whom, could become particularly crucial. I mean, Fatehpur Sikri, for example, a number of constituencies will come up. Gaurav Vallabh, let me just put that to you. At the time when it became clear, now today we've just had one particular development which I also wanted to ask you about. The fact that the Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party are not together in Delhi. There are many who would say that is gifting the BJP 5 to 6 seats, right, which may otherwise have not gone to the BJP. 5 to 6 seats are going to go to the BJP, which is a little bow-tied present because Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress couldn't get their act together. Uttar Pradesh was another big question where, yes, Mayawati blocked the Congress's role in coming to an alliance out there, but the fact that you are fighting there, does it mean that the natural advantage that the Gathbandhan should have got may be undercut because you're cutting their votes? Now, I'm going to put a thesis to you. A lot of analysts are saying actually that may not be happening for 2-3 reasons. One, the Congress party is actually not fighting very seriously in 50 to 55 seats, maybe as many as 60. You're not really going out there contesting those. You're leaving it to the Gathbandhan. Point 1. Point 2, in many areas where a Samajwadi Party has got decent candidates, you're actually putting up candidates who are actually cutting the BJP and not the other way, and the Samajwadi Party is returning the favor. Which means that the Congress Party's ability to cut votes of the Gathbandhan is in about 10 to 12 seats where you and the Bahujan Samaj Party seem to be at each other's throats. Is that a fair analysis?
Vikram, I don't think we do such type of analysis. We fight...
Really? You're a political party and you don't do this
analysis? Let me complete. Vikram, let me complete. We select the candidates on the basis of his credibility, his popularity, how he is able to deliver what we had promised in our manifesto. We select the candidates how he is going to deliver the Nyay scheme, how he is going to represent that particular constituency. So saying that
Vikram,
just 10 seconds. So our endeavor is not that to cut this vote and to help him. We are contesting, as Rahul Gandhi ji had mentioned time and again, that we are playing on front foot. We are going with our mandate, that Nyay, how we are going to deliver the Kisan.
So what does the front foot mean?
Ma'am, we are going to deliver how the Rin Mukti se Rin Maafi ka safar kaise hoga. That is what we are going to deliver.
Your candidate in Gautam Budh Nagar yesterday was not designed to make Mahesh Sharma lose. Your candidate Dolly Sharma in Ghaziabad yesterday was not designed to make VK Singh lose. I mean, constituency, but why are you defensive about it? It surely should make sense for you to...
I am not an astrologer, I can't say, but I can tell you one thing, that in UP, you will be surprised by seeing the Congress tally. I am not going to make that 60, 40, 30, 10, I don't know. But I am telling the way we are, because we are penetrating with positiveness. We are not going with ghus ke maro, andar ghus ke maro,
sharab, afeem. By the way, I only want to look at data right now. I don't want to get into the political aspect of it. Lalita, Lalita Kumaramangalam, let me just get you in on this. Uttar Pradesh, obviously a state where so much rests.
Yes, good evening.
What Gaurav Vallabh just said, that we are actually looking at the candidates and not looking at bigger strategic issues or tactical issues or how do we defeat the BJP's candidates. If that is indeed the case, then the BJP should probably be smiling. Now, actually, if you're looking at the way the candidates have been selected, it does seem that there is a slightly deeper thought process, especially between the Samajwadi Party and the Congress Party. What is your sense of what he said?
Vikram, let me be quite frank, I don't want to beat about the bush. Every political party come elections wants to win. It's nothing new and there's nothing wrong in it. Now, if the Congress and the BSP and the SP have come to some sort of informal agreement, even after Mayawati humiliated the Congress, that's their right. And since they have openly said that their only real enemy or only real person that they're looking at to defeat or party to defeat is the BJP, I don't believe what Mr. Vallabh says. Now, why he said what he said is his business and he has every right to say it. He is the spokesperson of the Congress Party. As far as the BJP is concerned, we are here to win, to retain our government and to come back to power for a second term. We've made no, I'm not beating about the bush, and we've made no excuses to say that, you know, we don't put up candidates who we want to win, etc. Of course we want to win. That's quite obvious, and I think that should be obvious for every party. But I can't speak on behalf of other parties. Insofar as what has happened in Western UP, I don't think we can really predict who is going to win or who is not going to win. The BJP is quite confident of winning the majority, at least, of seats there. Of course, we know that this time perhaps we may not have the sort of sweep that we had last time. But remember that the sweep last time was not against us. It was for us in our favor. So this time, if there isn't a sweep against us, it's extremely good. The fact is that Mr. Modi is still very popular. And I would say that more than 50 to 70% of voters are voting for Mr. Modi and for the BJP.
Okay.
So I don't think there's anything that we have to really be concerned about. We also remember, and this I keep saying, that the strength, the biggest strength, one of the biggest strengths of the BJP is our presence at the grassroots.
Okay.
We have people in every booth.
Yeah, so that turnout factor is something that both Sagarika and Sanjay Kumar were referring to.
Maybe Mayawati ji has, but yeah, but I don't think the Congress has that.
Okay, can I just turn to you, Sudhindra Kulkarni, on how you would actually approach this if you were a political party? So we've seen Congress wasn't able to pull it off with Aam Aadmi Party, wasn't able to get the tie-up going with the Bahujan Samaj Party. I just wanted to get your sense, without any looking at it purely as an analyst, when you're seeing the candidate selection, the way it is panning out in Uttar Pradesh, are you seeing some sort of a design there? Some sort of at least tacit understanding and agreement between, let's say, the Samajwadi Party and the Congress, if not between the BSP and the Congress?
The political landscape in India is such that it is not possible to either envision or create just two fronts or two alliances, a BJP-led alliance and a Congress-led alliance. This election is going to be determined to a much larger extent than before by state or even sub-state realities, and these realities are such that many regional parties want to assert themselves, and they are in contention against either BJP or the Congress. So a national Mahagathbandhan against the BJP was just not possible. Some people tried it, it has not succeeded. Nevertheless, there are some tacit understandings, and if you see the country as a whole, today there is no wave either in favor of Modi or against Modi. Nevertheless, it's a very keenly contested election, and many factors, local, state and some national factors would come into play.
Okay.
And we have to see how everything will add up all the state realities add up to a national outcome.
Okay, fine. I just want to now let's start going around to some of the states, especially the ones that are really critical in phase 2, which is the next one that is actually coming up. We've already seen voting being finished in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Could be really significant, and mark our words out here. If one of the alliances is, if the NDA ends up at 240, for example, and not at 270, those seats that Jagan gets and the TRS may have got yesterday in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana could prove to be really, really significant. But the same could be said about Tamil Nadu. So let's just turn our attention to Tamil Nadu, because phase 2, which is next Thursday, 39 seats in Tamil Nadu are going to be voting. It's the single largest chunk, just as Andhra and Telangana were in phase 1. Remember, AIADMK had swept Tamil Nadu last time. This time, it's actually two really formidable alliances. The AIADMK by itself was only contesting 20 seats, by the way. The PMK 7, DMDK 4, TMC 1, PNK 1. On the other side also, you've got the DMK 20, Congress 10, VCK 2, CPI, CPM, MDMK, KMDK. Really, they're two strongish alliances that are out there neck to neck and fighting it out. Who wants to go first in saying, which way this is going to go? Can I come across to you there in Tamil Nadu? What is your sense of it? How do you think things are going to pan out? Which alliance is looking ahead? Mr. Rajshekharan, let me go to you.
Vikram, say, I don't agree with this. Everybody speaks about there is no wave, there is no anti-Modi wave or pro-Modi wave. There is a silent wave in Tamil Nadu. Definitely, the anti-incumbency factor is going to go against ADMK and BJP at the center. And the people of Tamil Nadu have always been very clear in voting when it comes to the parliament elections, especially general elections. So last election, 2014, Jayalalitha had campaigned throughout the states saying that it is Modi or lady. And the people of Tamil Nadu voted for the lady. Today, Jayalalitha is not with us. And definitely, ADMK is not as strong as they were. They have aligned with parties which was abusing them, accusing them, and which was going all around in the media and everywhere, saying that it is a bundle of scam government which is being run by OPS and EPS. And we also saw OPS going out and rejoining. All this happened. The people of Tamil Nadu are brilliant enough to understand what is happening around them. And they have always been an intelligent voters when it comes to elections. They have either voted DMK or ADMK. This time, there is one dark horse called TTV Dinagaran. See, that man, everybody is underestimating his potential and strength. I hold no brief to anybody. Let us be honest. I'll call this spade a spade. He is going to split a huge chunk of votes from the ADMK as well as the minorities. The minority factors was always with DMK and Congress. This time down south, central Tamil Nadu, TTV Dinagaran is going to garner those votes. So he is going to play the spoil sport. So he is going to call the shots. He may win nearly 5 to 7 seats also. I wouldn't be surprised. Fact of the matter is, DMK should have been more articulate and vociferous in presenting their case. But I feel they are very soft, and they are going around making all sorts of weird
all right, Mr. Rajshekharan,
the ruling party.
All right, Mr. Rajshekharan, thanks for joining us with that perspective. You've sort of given us an overall view as to the way you think it's going to go, and you think there's a strong anti-incumbency factor. Let me just get in the other experts on the panel before I come back to some of the politicians. Sanjay, any thoughts on Tamil Nadu? What are the numbers showing to you? Because it's actually a reasonably complicated alliance. It's not that, it must be tough to do the numbers on this. Whom do you add up and how do you add up?
I think the easy answer would be, yes, it is advantage DMK plus. That's the easy answer. The difficult answer would be advantage DMK by how many seats. I think it's not going to be the sweep of the kind which we have witnessed in the past. So maybe out of 39, we could say, I might guess 30 for DMK alliance and maybe 8 or 9 or 10 for the AIDMK alliance. That's the split I am looking at in Tamil Nadu as of 2019.
Sagrika?
So I was in Tamil Nadu there, and there was a survey going around which gave 40 seats to the DMK alliance. That's Tamil Nadu plus Puducherry. clean sweep for the DMK. Like Sanjay, I don't think that's going to happen because the AIA-DMK alliance is very huge. It's a very large alliance, it's a very varied alliance, and it's also resource rich. But I have to say, Vikram, if there's one area of the country where Mr. Modi is seriously vulnerable, it is south of the Vindhyas and it is in Tamil Nadu. I think Mr. Rajshekhar is absolutely right. The kind of sentiment that there is against the centre. Also the kind of politics the centre has been playing with the AIA-DMK, with the EPS, OPS, the kind of machinations that the BJP has been doing, the kind of that they're being treated as agents of the centre. This sentiment is very high, and there's a degree of Tamil sub-nationalism and Tamil pride and Tamil assertion which is
those
channeling
trending
itself.
hashtags which you only
those
see
trending
in Tamil
hashtags which you only see. But I do think that the AIA-DMK is a very wide alliance and cannot be written off.
So Lalita Kumarmangalam, let me just ask.
Vikram, I also think that AIA-DMK alliance with BJP is also going to damage AIA-DMK prospects, because what Sagarika was saying, there is an anger against central government in Tamil Nadu. So that will pull down AIA-DMK in Tamil Nadu.
All right, Lalita Kumarmangalam, just to get your sense, and maybe I'll throw in Karnataka also, which is voting, another area which may well be quite important in phase 2. Do you agree that there is a certain sense of, if there's one state where there seems to be a palpable sense of anti-incumbency against the centre, you would probably say it could be Tamil Nadu. Now that's contrasted with the fact that it's a really powerful, arithmetically a very powerful alliance that has been stitched up there.
Also in Kerala.
Bikram, I'm from Tamil Nadu, so let me give you a perspective for somebody who is, really from that state. Now, I agree with what Rajshekhar said about TTV Dinakaran, that he is a factor that nobody seems to have factored into all of this. Secondly, the Tamilians have an anti-centre sentiment which has nothing to do with Congress or BJP. There has been the Dravidian movement, which started as the anti-Hindi movement in the early 60s, as you know very well. And at that time, it was the Congress that was in power that Tamilians perceived as pushing Hindi down our throats. Now that the whole shall we say, the whole conversation around the anti-centre sentiment in Tamil Nadu is based on that, and it has grown and, let me say, I don't know if this is the right word, but prospered in terms of the anti-centre sentiment. It's basically an anti-North sentiment, anti-Hindi sentiment. For some reason, the Tamilians just don't trust people above the Vindhyas. This time, I think it is very evenly poised. It's very difficult to write the ADMK and the BJP alliance. It's basically the ADMK alliance, let's be honest, because it's a very powerful alliance and they are experienced, battle-scarred veterans. So is the DMK to an extent. But remember that the ADMK has weathered the last 2 years without Jayalalitha and survived. I think we hardly gave them 2-3 months, every one of us on this panel, to be brutally honest. But they've survived and they haven't done badly. They managed to pull themselves together. They provided a credible administration, etc. Now, the Tamilians are very clear that they do not want to vote. Basically, they will not vote for a party that they feel is not going to respect their sentiments.
Okay.
I don't think the Congress at all has any base in Tamil Nadu, but then equally that could be said about my own party. But the fact is that we can't just write the ADMK off.
Okay,
I would be surprised if it was something like 50-50 or 40-60, but I'm not willing to say who will get 40 and who will get 60, because I really think we don't know what's going to happen in Tamil Nadu.
I'm about to jump to the other states, to Karnataka. I see, Mr. Ranjan Shetty is there. He wants to really talk a bit about Maharashtra with him also. But Mr. Rajshekhar, let me just quickly get your sense. You heard what Lalita Kumarmangalam said. What would be your take? If you had to pick a number in this, all the mathematics of Tamil Nadu, what would your number be? If you were a betting
25
man.
to DMK, 25 to DMK Congress, 7 to TT with Dinakaran, and 3 or 4 to ADMK BJP. Because I'm also brutally honest, because I don't take sides. Because Lalita Kumarmangalam is there, I cannot say she is going to win all the seats. It will be ridiculous if I say that. Fact of the matter, again I want to
reiterate. But the BJP is only contesting 5, so they couldn't win all the seats even if they wanted to. So
that's what I'm trying to emphasize here.
Okay, fine. I just want to when I get you in, I'm just trying to cover all the states in phase 2 and get everyone to weigh in. I don't want to come to Karnataka. Can I just bring up Karnataka a little bit, because remember, Karnataka starts to vote tomorrow. And Gaurav Vallabh, this question is going to be aimed at you. Yes, Rahul Gandhi went and contested from Wayanad, which was, that's probably a state which certainly the BJP doesn't have any stakes in. It's between you and the left, and the Congress is well positioned. There were some people who thought that Karnataka might have been a state that you would have eyed with a little bit more avarice than perhaps you are doing right now. You've got an alliance with the JDS there now. There were some who were thinking, for example, if you had sent Rahul Gandhi to contest from Karnataka instead of Kerala, or sent Priyanka Gandhi to contest from Karnataka, maybe that's a state where, people sometimes forget the BJP actually got 17 of the seats there in 2014. Those 17 may well be seats that would have been vulnerable for you to eye. You don't seem to be being as aggressive in Karnataka as some thought you could have been.
Vikram, when MPs goes for re-election, they go with their work. What kind of work they are going to show to their constituencies? I am asking them. There is a severe farm distress.
Hang on, but right now it's your government. It's your government.
Vikram, I am asking, these are MP election. What kind of work they will show that we had done? And in just one sentence on Tamil Nadu, then I will come back to Karnataka. It is first time in the history of independent India that the finance ministers of South Indian states came to Delhi against the Finance Commission report. Because their share in centrally sponsored schemes, gradually they felt that it is coming down, and he is talking about AIADMK. What AIADMK will say to their own people, that we are in alliance with those people who had reduced the funds to our own state. The Tamilians are going to vote on that basis. And coming to Karnataka, I am telling you, in this phase we had a Mysore region, we had Mandya, we had a Bangalore region which is going to go for poll. In Bangalore we were strong. If you will recall the Legislative Assembly elections result, Bangalore we gave the results which BJP never expected. So I am asking, what is their governance model? Everybody comes from BJP, they say this caste plus this religion plus this religion. Nobody talks about governance and development.
Niranjan Shetty has been waiting patiently. Niranjan, my apologies, let me come to you now. Let me jump also from Karnataka a little bit north to Maharashtra, and many people almost are forgetting that we all obviously saw voting in Vidarbha yesterday. Nitin Gadkari's future was settled on Thursday. How is Maharashtra looking when it comes to tying up alliances, including with people who've sometimes been offensive? The reason the Congress not tying up with the Aam Aadmi Party, it's easy to forget just how bad the blood was between the BJP and the Shiv Sena in Maharashtra till just 3-4 weeks back. I wanted to ask you, how is the alliance working on the ground? Has all the...
Of course, I think everything is going fine. I think you should not have any doubt about it. Basically, whatever is there, we have made an alliance. It is much open not only in the news as well as in every forum. All our party workers, either be it of Shiv Sena or BJP, are working in alliance. We had differences, yes, but we sorted out that in very open forum. Even Uddhav Thackeray came in open and shook hand in front of everybody. So whatever allegations or anything were there, now it is a past. I think repeating that. So they understood what was their fault. We understood what was the basic difference. So that is already been sorted out. I think the fear is among the Congress and NCP. Basically in 2014, what they could not even garner more than the double digit. I think that is what they need to understand. Presently, I think as far as Maharashtra is concerned, we are going to ride, we have a lot of hopes.
So, if you look at the seats that went in phase 2, the BJP BJP Shiv Sena together got 8 out of those 10. Congress and NCP got just 2 of them. Across the state, obviously, the BJP and the Shiv Sena did really well in 2014. So, the big question that has to be asked, I guess, about Maharashtra, just as it's being asked about Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan or Uttar Pradesh or Delhi or any of these areas, is Gujarat. These are places that were swept by the BJP and the NDA last time. Can you repeat a sweep, or will you be maybe getting 50% of the seats, 60% of the seats? Because 60% of the seats is a drop from where you were last time.
Sorry?
I'm just asking you, in Maharashtra, would you be expecting a sweep for the BJP Shiv Sena this time? Or
absolutely.
Even at a 60...
see, Vikram, what you need to understand is basically we also have a government in place in state of Maharashtra where we have worked for the upgradation of the farmers, as well as we have already implemented all the central scheme and taken to the people down below, basically. So you need to understand that we have at the helm of the affairs is the Devendra Fadnis, who himself also has a face value. So basically we will also be riding on not only Narendra Bhai Modi, but also with Devendra Fadnis, who is having a clean image itself.
All right, Surendra Kulkarni, let me go to you, and a couple of questions I wanted to ask. In many of the seats that we are seeing in many of the areas that are polling now, the BJP essentially is defending what was a fortress in 2014. These were all areas that were swept by the BJP, complete sweep. How tough is it to repeat that?
It is impossible for the BJP to repeat its performance in 2014 in states where it reached a saturation point. And Maharashtra is one of them, even Karnataka is one of them. Not just Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and of course Uttar Pradesh. Because there is no Modi wave, it is impossible for the BJP to get as many seats as it did last time. For one more reason, anyone who looks at the 4.5 years of the BJP Shiv Sena relationship, both parties in fact would be embarrassed just to go back and see what Uddhav Thackeray said about the BJP and what the BJP leaders said about Shiv Sena. It's only recently that some kind of a top level tie-up has happened, but at the bottom, those old memories are still alive, and against this, one sees a much better coordination between the Congress and the NCP in Maharashtra, and also better coordination between the Congress and JDS, Deve Gowda's party in Karnataka. As a result of this, one can very safely say that the numbers of the BJP will come down significantly in both these states.
Okay. Sanjay, if I could just come to you. I mean, you've been doing a series of polls, you know the latest data. When you're looking at the numbers right now and the way it is stacking up, those numbers still seem to be pointing to an NDA victory. What lies behind that? Is it that anti-incumbency is not as bad as it was? Is it because alliances have not been tied up in the manner that they should? Is it just that the arithmetic is so overwhelmingly in favor of the BJP?
A little bit of all the factors which you have mentioned. In the poll, I get a parallel story going on in the country in many states. If you ask people about the performance of government, people would say they are concerned about unemployment going up, they are concerned about various non-performance of the BJP. But at the same time, the parallel story is that in spite of all this, they would like to vote for Modi more than BJP. So this is a parallel story. People are unhappy, not angry. And I keep saying, in order to defeat this BJP, popular government of BJP, we needed an anger. The anger is missing. There is a disappointment, there is unhappiness, but at the same time, they don't see a viable alternative, and they see hope in Prime Minister Modi, and many people want to give Modi another chance. This is the story in many states. In some states, we were mentioning about Maharashtra or Karnataka, BJP's tally will come down because of the alliance factor, but I don't expect BJP's tally to come down drastically in Maharashtra and in Karnataka.
I do think in Vidarbha, where I travelled, which is the site of the farmers' distress, the farmers' suicide, the kapas farmers' suicides, there I would say there is a lot of anger against this government. There's a great deal of economic hardship that's being faced. And I think in Vidarbha, for the BJP to score 7 out of 7 as it did in 2014 is probably not going to be as easy, because the NCP is actually looking a little more organized than the Congress. But on one issue I have to give credit to the BJP. I don't normally give credit to the BJP much, but on one issue I do have to, which is that they have groomed a second generation leader in Devendra Fadnavis, who has come across as the gen next of the BJP. Now the Congress has simply not been able to create a second generation leader in Maharashtra. Maharashtra, which is such a big state.
Not in Maharashtra, but in other states. In other states, they had,
well,
and then they sidelined them because
the most exciting Congress candidate at the moment in Maharashtra is, frankly, Urmila Matondkar, who seems to be winning. But the fact is, that Ashok Chavan, and at the end of the day, is really not inspiring enough. So the fact is, the Congress has simply not got its organization going. It's not got a second generation leader.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with the Congress in Maharashtra.
The need for strong local leadership should have been. I mean, actually,
you
don't have to look further than Andhra Pradesh for that, do you? I mean, look at Andhra Pradesh. Look at what Andhra Pradesh or the Congress has been able to retain.
Look at UP. Where has the Congress been able to groom a locally rooted second generation leader in UP?
But okay, so it happened in states like Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, but then you know what happened with the Chief Minister's the issue out there. Andhra yesterday, I guess, that's the one question the Congress would be asking. Yeah,
Vikram, after Uttar Pradesh, if farm distress after UP is most severe, it is in Vidarbha. And what Sanjay ji was telling, that there is no anger. Sanjay ji, now the young voters doesn't show or reflect anger. Like we used to say silent wave, now there is a silent anger in the people, and this anger will be reflected. That is the reason I'm not making a very big claim, Vikram, but I'm telling you that Nitin Gadkari is losing. I'm telling you.
In the 50s and 60s, people were scared of expressing their views. Today, people aren't scared of expressing their views.
I'm not having a habit of making big claims, but I'm telling you today that Nitin Gadkari ji is losing this election. Please record this, because we are going to meet again on 23rd May. Because there is a silent anger. What you had done for the farmers. Farmers were walking down from Nasik to Bombay just to give their MOU or their demands to the Chief Minister. And the second, just a small point.
What's the bet on that? What's the bet on that?
I will.
Can I get you a hat which you will then eat on that day?
I am ready for that, Vikram. I'm
eating a hat?
And just 5 seconds more.
Okay.
See, 4 years.
Is Mr. aware of the ground reality?
Please, let me come.
Can I make a point?
Let him finish. I'm going to come to Niranjan there and then.
Vikram, this is a very unique alliance between BJP and Shiv Sena.
I think
4 years, 364 days, 23 hours. They were saying in Samna that Chaukidar is chor. Have a JPC, and today they are saying, people of Maharashtra are not fools. They are seeing what is unholy alliance they are having with BJP and Shiv Sena.
Mr. Shetty next. Yeah, carry on, Mr. Shetty.
I think Mr. Gaurav is not aware about the ground reality, and I feel naturally it's a laughable that Mr. Nitin Gadkari would be losing, and it would be a surprise. And probably on 23rd May, he is saying that he should check whether whatever statement is right or wrong. Unfortunately, I would also like to mention what Mr. Sudhindra Kulkarni and Sagarika Ghosh said. Basically, I think the cameraman or your people must have not taken you to those areas where during the drought affected areas, when there was a drought, how Devendra Fadnis took the wagon of waters over there itself, which the government of Maharashtra in the previous tenure has never done so. So basically, I do not know. I am not saying that whatever area you must have chosen to go, there must be some kind of anger. This always possibility that you will find certain people, those who must be having a different opinion, or maybe they are the followers of Congress. But basically, what I need to make you understand is there won't be so much significant changes as Mr. Sudhindra Kulkarni is saying.
Okay.
I think basically the 5 years of governance of the center as well as of Devendra Fadnis is much more, it speaks much more. And I think probably we may not only repeat, but also the numbers would be
Vikram,
more
can I make a point please after this?
2014.
Yeah, can I just want to get in the remaining some of the other states that are doing that. I'm going to get everyone to come in with their final thoughts on this. Let's just look at some of the other seats that are voting. Remember, Bihar is not really getting the attention in these elections because phase by phase, when you start to look at it, there's only 5 seats in Bihar, but obviously all in put together, it is huge. Here are the other places that are voting. You're going to start seeing what's happening in Chhattisgarh. Bastar has of course voted, but you'll start seeing that. Odisha, you'll get a certain sense of it, and Assam, 5 more seats out there. Any thoughts on any of these? Who wants to go first? Let's start with you. Bihar. Interesting, crucial alliances there. Your sense on Bihar and also Northeast, the way it's shaping up, would you be slightly disappointed from what your expectations may once have been from the Northeast?
I don't think so, either for Bihar or for the Northeast. The Northeast, yes, we faced a few problems before election campaign, etc. started, but now I think we are perfectly fine. We are in full gear, and I mean, at the grassroots level, we do know exactly what's happening. With regard to Bihar, I think you must understand that the so-called Mahagathbandhan is absolutely in disarray. You have brothers fighting against brothers. There's no real unity at the grassroots level there. And I think Bihar's results will surprise a lot of people, though I'm sure the anti-Modi gang, or whatever you want to call them, will not be very happy to hear me say this. But I think it's fairly clear that in Bihar we have got our act together, but the other side hasn't.
Okay.
And the results will show that. I just want to say one thing about Maharashtra, which was pointed out by Mr. Shetty, that we have both Devendra Fadnavis and Nitin Gadkari, both of whom are extraordinarily popular at the grassroots. I don't know why people presume that there hasn't been drought. Yes, there has been drought, but there's been drought not just during the last 5 years. There's been drought for a very long time, and farmers have been in deep distress in Maharashtra for a very long time.
Okay.
Of course, they've protested, etc., but they protested before too. There is no real anger against the BJP in Maharashtra, because Devendra Fadnavis has proved to be an extremely adept and a very effective chief minister. And
Okay,
remember,
fine.
Mr. Gadkari does have the reputation, both locally and nationally, of being amongst the best performing ministers of our government.
All right. Gaurav, on Bihar, I mean, obviously there are a lot of seats that are riding on that. It's not still coming out very clearly as to how the alliances are actually doing.
Why? We had a very strong alliance. We are contesting there. People used to vote for Nitish Kumar seeing his Mr. Sushashan Babu's image. What happened to Srijan Ghotala? People had seen, Biharis had seen that he used to say, Prime Minister used to say, Bihari's DNA is wrong. मैं मर जाऊंगा पर नीतीश के साथ सरकार ने. What happened? See, it's not the small things. People, you don't think that people are fools. They remember everything. मैं बिहार की अस्मिता के साथ कोई समझौता. What happened? You are running the government, and not only government, doing corruption after corruption and no investigation. Okay. What happened to Srijan Ghotala, Muzaffarnagar Ghotala? Nothing. And then they, if they will go for vote, who is going to vote for them?
I'm trying to look at the analysis and the data, not the speeches that will be heard at great length on the campaign trail. So I'm just going to try and move on to some of the data and the analysis. Bihar, what is the sort of a picture that seems to be emerging? Because alliances in place, not very clear. I mean, actually, it's interesting. Phase 2, Bihar, these seats in Bihar are one of those areas which is actually the UPA is defending, because the RJD done really well in this part. Congress had also picked up a seat.
See, if you look at the two alliances in favor of NDA, there are three partners. So you have JDU, you have BJP, and you have LJP. But if you look at the other alliance, the Congress, RJD, HAM, there are the 5 political parties there. Maji, yes. So but these 5. They're larger in numbers, but if you look at the vote estimates, votes polled by the parties in the past, I see a huge advantage for NDA in Bihar over UPA. I don't see UPA doing very well in spite of 5 parties coming together and forming an alliance.
Sagrika?
It's an interesting alliance this time, interesting election this time in Bihar, Vikram, because you know, the BJP swept Bihar in 2014, but just a year later in 2015 the Nitish Lalu alliance trounced the BJP, and Nitish Kumar and Narendra Modi are fighting an election for the first time, because remember, Nitish Kumar actually left the NDA in 2013 on the pretext of Mr. Modi's prime ministership. So this is the first time they're fighting together. So now Nitish Kumar has been doing these flip-flops. So we have to see how this alliance, the NDA alliance versus the Mahagathbandhan alliance, works. For the moment, it seems as if the NDA has stitched up a pretty good alliance. In fact, the BJP is eaten humble pie. You know, it won 22 seats in Bihar in 2014, but it's contesting only 17.
So the BJP
so
has actually both in shifts.
It's a smart alliance in.
So both in Maharashtra, and we've said this to you.
Poll election results are in favor of RJD and Congress.
Okay, but I'm saying that one thing which is true is, in terms of the hunger to form those alliances, BJP has been willing to eat some humble pie in Bihar. It's been willing to eat humble pie in Maharashtra with an ally which you yourself were saying was calling them names, which again brings us to the question. I know it's not phase 2, but it has to be asked because that decision has just been taken. to what extent will the decision not to be able to somehow get an Aam Aadmi Party Congress alliance, will that make a difference of 7 or 8 seats, and will those 7 or 8 seats prove to be crucial? I mean, hey, we see this in IPL matches. Remember that last ball boundary, and you say, okay, maybe that would have tipped the scales. So in the Kulkarni, let me just get you in for a little bit of Chanakya Niti out here. At the end of the day, if you had been advising either the Aam Aadmi Party or the Congress Party or both, would you have said somehow try and make it work?
First,
I mean, I guess both will say the other person was so unreasonable that we couldn't have made it work.
You know, Bihar again is a case of the BJP seats coming down significantly, because as Sagarika mentioned, they won 22, they're contesting 17, so they'll only go down below 17. So this is a reality that is quite uniform in many states in the Hindi belt and also Maharashtra and Karnataka. Now coming to Delhi, it's the Congress ought to have really come to an alliance with AAP. It is going to help the BJP, and AAP also has a certain intellectual support in many states across the country, and for the sake of containing the BJP, this alliance ought to have been stitched up.
Okay, Gaurav, let me just put it to you. If you take a look at in Karnataka, you were willing to play second fiddle to the JDS, even though you've done better than them after the election, and in Delhi, you do realize that by not stitching up the alliance with the Aam Aadmi Party, I want to get Sanjay to maybe come in with the actual numbers, it could mean the difference of 5 to 6 seats.
Vikram, every party contests the elections for winning. Like, just taking.
That's not always true.
No,
that's not always true.
Vikram,
Sometimes you will contest elections, or you will do things in elections to make sure that that your rival, that the person you're contesting against, doesn't win. That's also the reason why sometimes it's done.
Vikram, let me complete. Then you react to this. Every party contests the election for winning the election. If a party like in BJP in Bihar, if they are reducing their seats, it means they are not confident that they are going to win. So if some party is confident enough to win, they are going to give their seats as per their calculation. Now we can't. That's the same thing I used to tell for the
on the 23rd,
UP alliance. See, when we
so
think
on the
that
23rd, if the BJP gets 7 seats in UP in Delhi,
when I think that I can win X number of seats, and if you are going to offer me X minus seats, then why I should make alliance with you? Because I am confident that I am going to win X seats.
Can I just give one sentence that I think defines this election for the Congress and the BJP? This is not my line, it's given by a politician. The Congress has to decide whether this election is about Congress maximization or BJP minimization. The two really cannot go together. It has to make a choice.
I can answer, ma'am.
And what has happened
in the BJP, or does it want to
maximize
the Congress?
Can I add one more thing?
Congress always contest election for Congress maximization.
But
that is the positivity.
Then that's a really.
There is nothing.
By the way, I'm surprised you are admitting that.
I'm actually go with positive attitude.
I'm actually surprised you are admitting that on a program. Hang on, I'm actually very surprised, Gaurav, that you are admitting that on a program like that, because all the other people across the country who would be looking at the Congress party for leadership and saying, okay, you know, Congress says we must look at the Modi government, we must get rid of the Modi government. If you're going to come on a TV show and say it's not about getting rid of the Modi government, it's about Congress
I am very clear, and my party is also very clear. We are going to for our own maximization, our own policies. We want to go to the public with our own policy. The negativity doesn't work in our party. That is setting Karlo.
I'm going to get a final word. Niranjan is trying to say something.
That is not our cup of tea.
Okay, fine. I mean, I've heard you. I'm surprised by what you're saying, but I've heard you. Niranjan, you want to come in with the last quick thought?
Yeah. I was just saying, I just wanted to ask Mr. Gaurav, I want to know from him how many seats is the Congress contesting all over India. Can he just explain?
I can answer 323 till now. And we are going to contest many more. Till now 323 is declared. Any other question, sir?
Okay,
I can answer.
No other question. I have 1 minute to go. I have just 1 minute to go on the show. I have 1 minute to go on the show. I'm going to.
There are many things.
One last.
So, second question.
Hang on. Fastest
in
finger
alliance.
I want one word from everyone.
That is what you are contesting in alliance.
Okay. One sec, sir. I'm going to ask all of you. One last question here. In this election, what do you think is the one issue that to your mind is resonating the most? We've discussed arithmetic, we've discussed this, now let's turn to chemistry. One issue that in your view is, not the reasons why, just the name, the one issue.
Leadership of Prime Minister Modi.
Leadership of Prime Minister Modi.
I think in this election, the big issue is going to be a rural-urban divide.
Rural-urban divide.
Job, farm distress and Nyay.
Okay, that's three, but okay, job, farm distress, fine. Job,
And
farm
Nyay.
distress. Sudhendra Kulkarni, one issue that you think is really moving this election.
The one issue that ought to move this election and is certainly doing so significantly is that the BJP and Modi are trying to hide their failures by dividing the electorate and society on communal
No, I'm saying
lines.
what is the
and
issue
this
that's
was
resonating the most? Before, okay, Lalita Kumar Mangalam, what's the one issue that is you think is making the biggest difference?
I'll give you two issues. One, the hard work that has been put in by the BJP government on various fronts. And second, that we are far, far better organized, the NDA, than the Congress and their allies are, the so-called Mahagathbandhan.
Niranjan, the one issue that you think is making the most impact?
I would only say,
We've got our act together and we are not overconfident.
I would
so we will win.
only say the people would keep in their mind before voting is the national interest.
See
All right, so, all right, fine. So you've got a sense of what is really at stake, and of course, those issues are going to keep on coming up. Leadership of Narendra Modi, farm distress, jobs, national security. Which way people think about this is going to eventually influence the way they're going to vote. That's it for now. This is The Big Fight. Been a great journey all the way through to the road of 2019. Elections are upon us. Let's see what finally happens when counting is out. Bye.